My name is Eric Benari, and this is Games People Play. In this episode, we will talk about the game I'm Only Trying to Help You. This game may be played in any professional situation and is not confined to psychotherapists and welfare workers. However, it is found most commonly and in its most florid form among the social workers within a certain type of training. Let's dive into it right now. All the players at a poker game had folded except for two, a research psychologist and a businessman. The businessman, who had a high hand, had made a bet. The psychologist, who had an unbeatable one, had raised the bet. The businessman looked puzzled, whereupon the psychologist remarked facetiously, "Don't be upset, I'm only trying to help you." The businessman hesitated and finally put in his chips. The psychologist showed the winning hand, whereupon the others threw down their cards in disgust. The others present then felt free to laugh at the psychologist's joke, and the loser remarked ruefully, "You sure were helpful." The psychologist cast a knowing glance at the writer, implying that the joke had been made at the expense of the psychiatric profession. It was at the moment that the structure of the game became clear. The worker or therapist of whatever profession gives some advice to a client or patient. The patient then returns and reports that the suggestion did not have the desired effect. The worker shrugs off this failure with a feeling of resignation and tries again. If he is more watchful, he may detect at this point a twinge of frustration, but he will try again anyway. Usually he feels the little need to question his own motives because he knows that many of his similarly trained colleagues do the same thing, and that he is following the correct procedure and will receive full support from his supervisors. If he runs up against a hard player, such as a hostile obsessional, he will find it more and more difficult to avoid feeling inadequate. Then he's in trouble, and the situation will slowly deteriorate. In the worst case, he may come up against an angry paranoid who will rush in one day in a rage, crying, "Look what you made me do." Then his frustration will come strongly to the fore in the spoken or unspoken thought, "But I was only trying to help you." His bewilderment at the ingratitude may cause him considerable suffering, indicating the complex moves underlying his own behavior. The bewilderment is the payoff. Legitimate helpers should not be confused with people who play "I'm only trying to help you." The game "I'm Only Trying to Help You" has an ulterior motive which is more important than the professional skill in determining the outcome. This motive is based on the position that people are ungrateful and disappointing. The prospect of success is alarming to the parent of the professional and is an invitation to sabotage, because success would threaten the position. In this game, the player needs to be reassured that help will not be accepted no matter how strenuously it is offered. The client responds with, "Look how hard I'm trying," or "There's nothing you can do to help me." More flexible players can compromise. It is all right for people to accept help, providing it takes them a long time to do so. Hence, therapists tend to feel apologetic for a quick result, since they know that some of their colleagues at staff meetings will be critical. At the opposite pole from the hard players of "I'm only trying to help you," such are found among social workers, like good lawyers who help their clients without personal involvement or sentimentality. Here, craftsmanship takes the place of covert strenuousness. Some schools of social work seem to be primarily academies for the training of professional players of the "I'm Only Trying to Help You" game, and it is not easy for the graduates to desist from playing it. Yeah, really. I'm Only Trying to Help You is a game that is easy to find in everyday life. It is played by family, friends, and relatives, such as the relative who always says, "I can get that for you wholesale," and by adults who do community work with children. It is a favorite among parents, with the complementary game played by their offspring called "Look What You Made Me Do." Now, let's talk about the antithesis of this game. There are several devices available for the professional to handle an invitation to play this game, and his selection will depend upon the state of the relationship between himself and the patient, particularly on the attitude of the patient's inner child. Number 1. The classical psychoanalytic antithesis is the most thoroughgoing and the most difficult for the patient to tolerate. The invitation is completely ignored. The patient then tries harder and harder. Eventually, he falls into a state of despair, manifested by anger or depression, which is the characteristic sign that a game has been frustrated. This situation may lead to a useful confrontation. Number 2. A more gentle, albeit not prim, confrontation may be attempted on the first invitation. The therapist states that he is the patient's therapist and not his manager. Number 3. An even more gentle procedure is to introduce the patient into a therapy group and let the other patients just handle it for you. Number 4. With an acutely disturbed patient, it may be necessary to play along during the initial phase. These patients should be treated by a psychiatrist who, being a medical man, can prescribe medications and some of the hygienic measures which are still available even in this day of using tranquilizers in the treatment of such people. If the physician prescribes a hygienic regimen, which may include baths, exercise, rest periods, and regular meals, along with medication, that the patient either carries out the regimen and feels better, or carries out the regimen scrupulously and complains that it does not help, or finally mentions casually that he forgot to carry out the instruction or that he abandoned the regimen because it was not doing any good. In the second and third of those cases, it is then up to the psychiatrist to decide whether the patient is amenable to a game analysis at that point, or whether some other form of treatment is indicated to prepare him for later psychotherapy. The relationship between the adequacy of the regimen and the patient's tendency to play games with it should be carefully evaluated by the psychiatrist before he decides how to proceed next. For the patient, on the other hand, the antithesis is, don't tell me what to do to help myself. I'll tell you what to do to help me. Serious players of the game I'm Only Trying to Help You are generally lacking in a sense of humor. And antithetical moves on the part of the patient are usually unfavorably received and may result in the therapist's lifelong enmity. In everyday life, such moves should not be initiated unless one is prepared to carry them through ruthlessly and take the consequences and accept the consequences. For example, spurring a relative who says they can get it for you wholesale may cause serious domestic complications. Thank you for watching. Let's play the next game in the next video. I'll see you there.